My family cut me out of their lives for 6 months, and when the truth finally came out, it broke me. My name is Ethan. I'm 29, and for most of my life, I thought I had the kind of family that everyone wished they had. Growing up in Oak Hill, our home was always the go-to spot for family gatherings. Whether it was a holiday, a birthday, or just a casual Sunday dinner, we were always together. I'm the oldest of four. There's Sam, 27, who's always been the dependable one. Derek, 25, the joker who could lighten the mood in even the darkest situations. And Ashley, the youngest at 22, who's still treated like the baby of the family, no matter how grown up she is. Even as we got older and started living our own lives, we held on to those traditions. Sunday dinners at my parents' house became a constant, something we could all rely on, no matter how busy life got. Those nights weren't just about the food, though the food was great. They were about the connection. Hearing Sam complain about work, laughing at one of Derek's ridiculous stories, or listening to Ashley gush about her dog, it was all part of what made those nights special. It was my normal, my home, my safe place. But lately, something has felt off. It's hard to explain, but things started to shift a few months ago. At first, it was subtle. I showed up to dinner one night, and it felt like I'd walked in on a conversation that had been going on without me. Everyone was laughing about something, but when I asked what was so funny, they got quiet. Someone mumbled, "You had to be there." And the moment passed. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was nothing. I've always had a tendency to overthink things, so I told myself to let it go. But then it started happening more often. Every week, I felt more and more like an outsider. I'd catch whispered conversations between my siblings or notice a strange look passed between them. When I asked Derek about it, he just laughed and told me I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe him, but deep down, something felt off. I started leaving those dinners with an uneasy feeling, like there was a puzzle I couldn't solve. Then one night, everything changed. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just gotten home from work, exhausted. I was lying in bed, scrolling through Instagram, when I saw it. A story posted by Rachel, Derek's girlfriend. It was a photo of my family sitting at a big, fancy restaurant. They were smiling, laughing, and holding wine glasses. It was the kind of place we usually went to for special occasions like birthdays or anniversaries. But I wasn't there. At first, I thought it must be an old photo. That had to be it. But then I noticed the timestamp. It was from earlier that night. My stomach dropped. I lay there, staring at the screen, frozen. I thought about calling someone right away, but what would I even say? "Hey, I saw you all went out without me. What's going on?" I didn't want to sound pathetic. The next day, I decided to ask casually. I figured Mom would give me the most straightforward answer. When I called her, I tried to keep my tone light, like it didn't bother me. "Hey, I saw you guys went out last night. Did you have a good time?" There was a pause. Not long, but just long enough to make it awkward. Then she said, "Oh, it was just a last-minute thing. We thought you were busy with work." Her answer didn't sit right with me. My schedule isn't unpredictable. If I'm busy, they know, because I always tell them. Besides, my family doesn't do last minute. My mom plans everything in advance, down to sending calendar invites for something as small as game night. But I didn't push it. I hung up and tried convincing myself I was overreacting. Maybe it really was spontaneous. Maybe they hadn't meant to leave me out. But the uneasy feeling didn't go away. A week later, it happened again. Ashley made a comment in the group chat about how wild game night was. Derek responded with a string of laughing emojis. I scrolled back through the chat, but there was no mention of a game night being planned. When I asked what they were talking about, Ashley brushed it off. Oh, it was nothing. Just a few people hanging out. Just a few people apparently meant everyone except me. By this point, I started paying closer attention. The group chat conversations felt off. They seemed vague, like they were carefully leaving things out. I noticed little references to inside jokes I didn't get, or places they'd gone that I hadn't known about. I thought about confronting them, but what would I even say? Are you guys doing things without me? I didn't want to sound paranoid. Then it happened again. One Wednesday night, I opened Instagram and saw Derek's story. This time, it was a photo of him and Sam sitting on the beach, beers in hand. The caption read, "Family Day Vibes." Family Day? I hadn't even known they'd gone anywhere. This time, I didn't bother asking. I just sat in my apartment, staring at my phone, feeling like someone had punched me in the gut. I replayed everything in my head. The odd looks, the whispered conversations, the dinners without me. It wasn't just one or two things anymore, it was a pattern. But why? I started obsessing over it. Had I done something to upset them? I racked my brain for any argument or moment where I might have hurt someone without realizing it, but nothing came to mind. I talked to my best friend Anna about it. She told me I needed to confront them. "You can't keep driving yourself crazy," she said. "Just ask them." But every time I thought about bringing it up, I felt sick. What if they were doing it on purpose? What if they wanted to exclude me? I wasn't ready to face that possibility, so I tried to ignore it. But ignoring it didn't make it go away. If anything, the silence grew louder. The distance between me and my family became impossible to ignore. I kept telling myself it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. The feeling of being excluded kept building up, each incident adding to the weight on my chest, like bricks stacking one on top of the other. The Sunday after the beach photo, Mom called me in the afternoon. "Hey, honey, we're going to reschedule dinner tonight," she said, her tone casual. "We'll figure out another time soon." I told her it was fine, even though it wasn't. Sunday dinner was never rescheduled. Ever. The only exceptions were serious ones, like a vacation or someone being too sick to host. This time, she didn't give any reason, and I didn't ask for one. I hung up the phone, tried to shake it off, and spent the evening watching TV alone. It was around 9 p.m. when I found myself opening Instagram again. I don't even know why I kept doing it to myself. Maybe I was hoping to see something that would prove my fears wrong, but there it was, a picture on Rachel's story. It showed my family sitting around our dining room table, the same one where we always had Sunday dinners. Plates of food were set out in front of them, wine glasses raised, and smiles spread across their faces. In the background, Derek and Sam were laughing while Ashley had her arm around Mom, mid-laugh. They'd had Sunday dinner without me. My hands went cold as I stared at the screen, unable to look away until the photo disappeared. The light from my phone felt harsh, almost like it was mocking me. My family had gotten together like always, but I wasn't there. They hadn't even told me about it. The realization hit me like a punch to the stomach. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or poor timing. My family was deliberately leaving me out. I sat on the couch for hours, holding my phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. The thought that they didn't want me there, that I didn't belong anymore, hurt in a way I didn't know was possible. I wanted to call someone and say it out loud, but I didn't know who. Anna would tell me to confront them, and maybe she was right. But the thought of asking and hearing confirmation that they didn't want me there made me feel sick. The following days passed in a fog. I avoided the group chat entirely, ignored texts from my siblings, and buried myself in work. I thought if I kept myself busy enough, I wouldn't have to think about it. But the universe has a way of throwing things back in your face when you're trying to ignore them. A few nights later, I was scrolling through my phone before bed when I saw a notification pop up. It was a private message from an Instagram account I didn't recognize. The message read, "I know why they're avoiding you, but you're not ready to hear it yet." I froze. What? Before I could respond, the message disappeared. I checked the account, but it was gone. Either deleted or I'd been blocked. I stared at my screen, my heart racing. What was that supposed to mean? I spent the rest of the night lying awake, replaying those words over and over in my head. I know why they're avoiding you. Avoiding me. So, it wasn't just in my imagination. Someone else had noticed it too. The next day, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I texted Anna and told her everything. The dinners without me, the brunches, the beach trip, the Instagram posts, and even the bizarre anonymous message. She didn't hold back. "Ethan," she said, "this is seriously messed up. You need to ask them what's going on." "I'm scared," I admitted. "What if they tell me they don't want me there?" "You can't keep living like this," she said. "You're torturing yourself." I knew she was right. I couldn't go on like this, pretending nothing was wrong. So I made a plan. Earlier in the week, Mom had casually mentioned a family brunch at a cafe near their house. She said it so nonchalantly, like it didn't matter whether I showed up or not. This time, though, I decided I was going to go, uninvited and unannounced. I needed answers, and I was done waiting for them. Sunday morning, I got up early, threw on a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt, and drove to the cafe. My hands were shaking as I walked in, but I was determined. I arrived before anyone else and grabbed a table for 6 near the back. I sat there, my heart pounding, watching the door with every passing second. Finally, Derek walked in. The moment he spotted me, his face gave everything away. Surprise, confusion, and something that looked like guilt. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "You're here early. Just wanted to grab a table," I replied. He sat down without another word and pulled out his phone. A few minutes later, Sam walked in, followed by Ashley, and then Mom and Dad. Their expressions mirrored Derek's: shock, discomfort, and a tension that hung in the air like a storm cloud. It felt like I had crashed a party I hadn't been invited to. I smiled, pretending not to notice. "Hey, everyone. Brunch sounded good." Mom forced a smile back. "Oh, that's nice, honey. We didn't think you'd come." "Why wouldn't I?" I asked, keeping my tone even. No one answered. We ordered food, and I tried to keep the conversation light. But it was like talking to a wall. Derek kept his eyes glued to his phone. Ashley wouldn't meet my gaze, and Mom kept giving Dad these odd glances, like they were communicating silently. Eventually, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I set my fork down and looked at each of them. "I have to ask," I said, my voice trembling. "What's going on?" They all froze. "What do you mean?" Mom asked, her voice overly casual. "I mean this," I said, motioning to the table. "The dinners I'm not invited to, the beach trip, the brunches, the things I only find out about through Instagram. If I did something wrong, just tell me." The silence that followed was unbearable. Mom looked like she was on the verge of tears. Derek stared hard at his plate, and Ashley's hand shook as she reached for her water glass. Finally, Derek muttered, "It's complicated." "Complicated?" I repeated, my voice rising. "What's so complicated that you can't just tell me?" I demanded. Mom opened her mouth like she was about to explain, but Dad shot her a look that stopped her in her tracks. I felt like I was going to explode. "You know what? Forget it," I snapped, shoving my chair back from the table. I grabbed my jacket and stood. "When you're ready to tell me the truth, you know where to find me." Mom called my name, her voice pleading, but I ignored her and walked out of the cafe without looking back. When I got to my car, I sat there gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my shaking hands. I couldn't believe what had just happened. They were hiding something from me. It wasn't just a hunch anymore. It was a fact. Whatever it was, they didn't want me to know. But I wasn't going to sit around waiting for answers anymore. If they weren't going to tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. I drove aimlessly for hours after leaving the cafe. I couldn't bring myself to go home. Couldn't stand the idea of sitting alone in my apartment with the silence closing in on me. My mind kept replaying what had just happened. I pictured my family at the cafe, looking at me like I was an intruder who didn't belong. Their silence had spoken louder than words ever could. It was crystal clear now. They were hiding something. And whatever it was, it had to be bad. Eventually, I found myself parked outside Anna's apartment. She opened the door, took one look at me, and didn't ask a single question. She just stepped aside and let me in. "You confronted them, didn't you?" she asked as I slumped onto her couch. I nodded. "They wouldn't tell me anything," I said, feeling defeated. "I told them I knew about the beach trip, the dinners, all of it. And Derek just said, it's complicated." Anna sat beside me, crossing her arms. "Complicated is such a stupid word," she said, shaking her head. "It doesn't mean anything." I let out a humorless laugh. "Yeah, well, that's all they gave me." I pulled out my phone and showed her the anonymous Instagram message again. The one that had said, "I know why they're avoiding you, but you're not ready to hear it yet." "Who even does something like this?" I asked, shaking my head. "Who sends a cryptic message like that and then just vanishes?" Anna frowned. "It's creepy," she admitted. "But Ethan, what if it's true? What if you really aren't ready?" "Not ready for what?" I snapped, my frustration bubbling over. "What could possibly be so huge that my entire family has decided I don't get to know?" She didn't have an answer, and neither did I. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus at work. I spent hours sitting at my desk, staring blankly at my computer screen and getting absolutely nothing done. At night, I would scroll through social media, desperately looking for clues, anything that could explain why my family was shutting me out. That's when I saw it. One evening, Ashley posted an Instagram story. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a casual selfie of her and Derek sitting on a couch, probably during one of their hangouts that I was never invited to. But something about it caught my attention. Over the photo, there was a screenshot layered onto the story. It looked like a mistake, as if Ashley had accidentally uploaded it. But in the corner of the screenshot, I could see part of a text conversation. And there it was, the name of a group chat, Family Time, No E. I froze. No E, as in no Ethan. It felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. My stomach dropped, and my hands started to shake. I quickly took a screenshot of her post before she could delete it. Then I just sat there, staring at my phone. They had a group chat without me. For what felt like hours, I didn't move. My mind was spinning, and my heart felt like it was being crushed. I had been right all along. They were talking behind my back. They were planning things without me. And now, I had the proof. I didn't know what to do next. Calling any of them felt pointless. If they hadn't told me the truth by now, they weren't going to suddenly come clean just because I asked again. But I needed answers. So I decided to text Ashley. Me. "Hey, can we meet up later? Just the two of us." It took her a while to respond, but eventually she said yes. We arranged to meet at a small coffee shop downtown, the same one we used to go to when we were younger. When I arrived, Ashley was already there, sitting at a table and looking down at her phone like she didn't want to be seen. "Hey," she said softly as I sat down. I didn't waste any time. I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshot of her Instagram story, and slid it across the table. "What is this, Ash?" Her face went pale. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling as she picked up my phone. "It's nothing," she mumbled. "Just a dumb group chat." "A dumb group chat?" I repeated, my voice sharp. "It's called Family Time, no E. How is that nothing?" Ashley looked like she was about to cry. "Ethan, you weren't supposed to see that." "But I did," I said firmly. "And now I want to know why. Why would you all make a group chat without me? What did I do?" "You didn't do anything wrong," she said quickly, shaking her head. "It's not like that." "Then why?" I pressed. My voice cracked as I spoke. She didn't answer. She just stared down at the table, avoiding my gaze. "Ashley, please," I begged, softening my tone. Her shoulders slumped, and after what felt like forever, she whispered, "It's not my place to tell you." "Not your place," I repeated, my frustration boiling over. "Are you serious? Do you have any idea what this is doing to me? I feel like I'm losing my mind." Ashley wiped at her eyes, tears beginning to fall. "Ethan, I swear, it's not what you think. We're not trying to hurt you." "Then what is it?" I demanded. "What's so bad that you all decided to shut me out?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she stood up suddenly, grabbed her bag, and said quietly, "I have to go." "Ashley, wait," I called after her. But she was already out the door, leaving me sitting there alone with no answers, just more questions. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Kevin. It felt strange dialing his number after so much time had passed. We hadn't spoken since the breakup, and I almost hung up before he answered. But then his voice came through, cautious. "Ethan?" "Hey," I said. "Sorry for calling out of the blue. I need to ask you something." There was a pause. "Sure, what's up?" I hesitated, trying to find the right words. "When we broke up, was there something going on with my family? Something I don't know about?" The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "Kevin!" I prompted. He let out a slow breath. "Ethan, I don't think I should get involved." "What does that mean?" I asked, my frustration growing. "Please, just tell me." There was another long pause. Finally, he said quietly, "There was something, but it's not my place to tell you." "Not your place," I repeated bitterly. "Kevin, you're the third person to say that. If you know something, I deserve to know." After a long silence, he finally said, "Your family is hiding something because they think they're protecting you." "Protecting me from what?" I asked, my voice shaking. But Kevin didn't answer. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I really can't be the one to tell you." And then he hung up. I stared at my phone, unable to breathe. Everyone kept saying the same thing. "It's not my place. We're protecting you." But protecting me from what? I was done waiting. If no one else would tell me, I'd figure it out myself. Everything in the group chat seemed normal. Reminders about birthdays, silly jokes about TV shows, and links to recipes Mom wanted to try. But it felt too normal, like they were choosing their words carefully to avoid saying something I wasn't supposed to know. I couldn't get the secret group chat, Family Time, no E, out of my head. I couldn't see it, but Ashley's screenshot had been enough proof that it existed. They'd created a separate space to keep me in the dark. I sat there staring at my phone for what felt like forever. Part of me wanted to throw it across the room, but instead, I called Anna. When she answered, I skipped the small talk. "I need your help," I said. "What happened?" she asked. I explained Ashley's reaction and told her about the name of the secret group chat. I also mentioned Kevin confirming that my family was keeping something from me. Anna was silent for a moment, likely trying to process everything I'd just told her. Finally, she asked, "So, what's the plan?" Anna let me use her phone to create a fake Instagram account. We picked a random name, added a stock photo for the profile picture, and then I started following everyone. My parents, my siblings, their friends, basically anyone who might have a connection to whatever my family was hiding. At first, I found nothing. I spent hours refreshing my feed, scrolling through their stories and feeling like a complete lunatic. But 2 days later, Ashley slipped up. She posted a story, a photo of her and Derek sitting on the porch at my parents' house. I stared at it for a moment before noticing the caption, "Family Night, like old times." Those words stuck in my head. Old times. Did that mean before something changed? I didn't know what she meant, but it was enough to push me further. The next day, I called Ashley. This time, I didn't bother being polite. "Ash, we need to talk," I said as soon as she answered. "Ethan!" "No," I cut her off. "You don't get to brush me off again. I know something happened. I know you all decided to keep me in the dark. You told me you were protecting me. Kevin said the same thing. So what is it? What are you protecting me from?" She went quiet. I could hear her breathing on the other end, like she was trying to decide what to say. Finally, she whispered, "Can we meet somewhere?" We agreed to meet at the park near her apartment later that afternoon. When I arrived, Ashley was already sitting on a bench, staring at the ground like she wished she could disappear. I sat down next to her, but she didn't say anything at first. "Ash," I said softly, "please, just tell me." She lifted her head, and I saw her eyes were red and puffy, like she'd been crying. "It started about 6 months ago," she said quietly. My stomach sank. 6 months ago, that was when things had started going wrong with Kevin. "Do you remember when you and Kevin broke up?" she asked. "Of course I remember," I said. "Why?" Ashley took a shaky breath, wringing her hands together. Around that time, Mom got a call from a family friend. Someone saw Kevin with someone else. "Someone else?" I repeated, feeling my stomach twist. She nodded, barely meeting my gaze. "It wasn't just a casual thing. They said Kevin and this person were acting like a couple. The friend even took a photo and sent it to Mom." "A photo?" I asked, my voice trembling. Ashley nodded. "Mom and Dad confronted Kevin," she continued, "and he admitted to it." "To what?" I pressed. "To cheating," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He told them he'd been seeing someone else. He said he was planning to break up with you soon anyway, and begged them not to tell you." I froze. "So Mom and Dad knew?" I asked, my voice shaking. "They knew? And they didn't tell me?" Ashley wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "They thought they were protecting you," she said. "They didn't want you to get hurt." I stood up abruptly and started pacing. "They let me get blindsided instead," I said bitterly. Ashley flinched. "Ethan, they thought they knew what was best for me," I snapped. "They made a decision for me without even asking." I turned to look at her. "The group chat, that was to keep me out of the loop, wasn't it?" Ashley nodded, looking down at the ground. I couldn't breathe. 6 months. My family had been lying to me for 6 months. They had let me sit there, confused and heartbroken, wondering what had gone wrong. I grabbed my keys. "Ethan, wait!" "No, I can't, Ash," I said. I can't." I left her sitting there on the bench and drove home in silence, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. When I got inside, I sat on my couch and stared into space for a long time. Eventually, I opened Reddit and started typing. I poured out the whole story. The affair, the photo, the deal my family made with Kevin, the secret group chat. I laid everything out because I needed someone to hear it. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. The comments started pouring in almost immediately. People were furious on my behalf. Some called my family cruel for what they had done. Others said they might have believed they were doing the right thing, but that didn't excuse the lies. One comment stood out the most. Your family made a choice that wasn't theirs to make. You deserve the truth, no matter how painful it is. I read that comment over and over again. For the first time in days, I felt like someone actually understood me. But it didn't make the pain go away. The days after my conversation with Ashley blurred together. I kept replaying everything she had told me. The affair, the photo, the secret deal my family had made with Kevin behind my back. They had taken the choice away from me, the chance to face the truth and decide for myself how to handle it. Instead, they lied, excluded me, and justified it all by saying they were protecting me. But I didn't feel protected. I felt betrayed. I read the comment over and over. It was the first time in days that I felt like someone truly understood. But it didn't take the pain away. The days following my conversation with Ashley passed in a haze. I kept replaying everything she had told me, the affair, the photo, the agreement my family had made with Kevin behind my back. They had taken away my ability to confront the truth and decide how to handle it. Instead, they chose to lie, to shut me out, and to justify it all by saying they were protecting me. But I didn't feel protected. I felt betrayed. I ignored their calls. Mom was the first to try, leaving me voicemails that were a mix of excuses and apologies. Ethan, please call me back. We need to talk about this. It's not what you think. Then Dad tried, though his message was quieter. Son, I know you're upset, but we need to talk this through. I didn't answer either of them. I needed time to think. The only person I kept in contact with was Anna. She checked in on me constantly, reminding me I wasn't wrong for feeling hurt. One night, she came over and sat with me on the couch as I vented about the entire mess. Do you think they really believed they were protecting me? I asked her. Anna sighed, looking thoughtful. Maybe they did, but that doesn't mean it was okay. They made a huge decision for you. They treated you like a child who couldn't handle the truth. I nodded slowly, letting her words sink in. What am I supposed to do now? I asked. She hesitated. That's up to you. You have every right to cut them off if that's what you want. But they're still your family. As angry as I was, I couldn't bring myself to leave things unresolved. 3 days later, Dad showed up at my apartment. He knocked on the door, and when I opened it, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I stepped aside to let him in. We sat on opposite sides of the living room, the silence between us thick and uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry, Ethan. I stared at him, waiting for him to continue. He sighed and rubbed his hands together nervously. I didn't agree with what your mom wanted to do, he admitted. When she showed me that photo, I told her we should tell you. I wanted to tell you, but she... He trailed off, searching for the right words. She was scared. Scared of what? I asked. Of seeing you hurt, he said. Your mom, well, she went through something similar a long time ago. She was cheated on badly when she was younger, and it messed her up for a long time. When she found out about Kevin, it brought all of that back for her. She thought if she could control the situation, if she could keep you from finding out, it would be easier for you. Easier? I asked sharply. It wasn't easier. All they did was make it worse. He nodded. You're right. We messed up. We all messed up. I should have fought harder. I should have told you the truth. For the first time, Dad looked genuinely ashamed. Why didn't you? I asked. He sighed again, his voice soft. Because I didn't want to fight with your mom, and I didn't know how to tell you without making everything worse. I sat there, trying to process what he was saying. Your siblings didn't want to lie to you either, he added, but your mom insisted, and none of us wanted to upset her. It wasn't an excuse, but it gave me some clarity. Before he left, Dad looked at me and said, "I know it's going to take time for you to trust us again, but I hope you'll give us that chance." That night, I sat alone in my apartment, thinking about everything Dad had said. My family had lied to me. They had shut me out and broken my trust. But they weren't monsters. They were scared. They were human. I wasn't ready to forgive them yet, but I realized I couldn't keep running from this either. So I agreed to go to a family therapy session. Derek had texted me earlier in the week saying he and Ashley were already seeing a therapist to work through their own guilt. "Just give it one try, Ethan," he'd said. So I did. Walking into the therapist's office was one of the hardest things I'd done in a long time. My whole family was there. My parents, Sam, Derek, and Ashley. They looked nervous, like they were walking on eggshells. We all sat down in a circle, and the therapist explained the ground rules. Then she asked me to start. So I did. I told them everything, how it felt to be left out, to feel like an outsider in my own family. I told them about the Instagram photos, the group chat, and the lies. I didn't hold back. I needed them to understand how deeply they had hurt me. Mom started crying almost immediately. She apologized over and over again, saying she thought she was protecting me from the truth. "It didn't protect me," I told her. "It made me feel like you didn't trust me, like you didn't think I could handle my own life." Derek spoke up next. He admitted that he'd felt guilty the entire time, but had been too afraid to go against Mom. He said he regretted not standing up for me, and wished he'd told me the truth sooner. The therapist gave everyone a chance to speak, and for the first time in months, we were honest with each other. Mom admitted that her past trauma had clouded her judgment. Dad confessed that he had failed by going along with her decision. Ashley apologized for staying quiet. By the end of the session, the air felt lighter. But the damage wasn't magically fixed. Before we left, I set my boundaries. "No more secrets," I said firmly. "No more decisions made for me. If you ever do this again, I'm done." They all agreed. As a gesture, Derek pulled out his phone and deleted the secret group chat in front of everyone. Ashley did the same. Sam promised they wouldn't hide anything from me again. It was a start, but I knew it would take a long time to rebuild what was broken. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. My family made an effort to check in more and include me in everything. We decided to start a new tradition, a monthly dinner where we could all talk openly, no matter how hard the conversation might be. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I kept going to therapy on my own, working through the anger and betrayal. I wasn't ready to forgive them completely, but I was starting to let go of the bitterness. Kevin reached out one last time, sending me a long email apologizing for everything. I read it, but I didn't respond. He wasn't part of my life anymore, and I was finally okay with that. One day, Mom and I sat down for coffee, just the two of us. She looked me in the eye and said, "I know I can't undo what I did, but I hope one day you can forgive me." I thought about it for a moment and said, "I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'll try." And that was enough for now. Rebuilding trust takes time. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like my family and I are moving forward, one step at a time. It's not perfect, but at least we're trying. And maybe that's enough.